Hello and welcome to this series, The Happiness Kit. Today I am joined by Brian Kelly. Thank you so much for joining me to speak about transformational breathwork. So please do introduce yourself and tell us what makes you an expert on transformational breathwork.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. It's a pleasure to be here. What makes me an expert? Well, I'm a student first before I'm a teacher. How I got into this work was just a really avid, inspired student. And breathwork became my life very quickly. I figured and discovered through my own personal practice and through witnessing the transformation that I had in others over a very short period of time. And so I really just became an embodied student, and that turned very quickly into me being a very embodied certified student, and just committing my life to this practice and reading all the books and studying all the resources, but mostly just becoming familiar with the power of my breath. I feel like it's an area that most people, it's because breathing is automatic. It's a function of the autonomic nervous system. And so most people go their whole life without paying any attention to their breath. That might be different for your community. You might be, this is probably a community of people that have done some self-work. Maybe they've done some meditation or yoga or some breath work. But most people out there, 25,000 breaths per day on average for the average human. And how consciously aware are we of those breaths? And breath is the Sanskrit word for spirit. It means life force. You can look at many different ancient traditions of this world, and it's usually connected to some kind of life force or spirit or the source of all that is. And that's because it contains a great amount of power. And I've discovered how to use my breath and manipulate my breath to really tap into that power at a very deep and profound level. And it's, as a result, very quickly become my mission, my vision, my purpose, and my dharma on this planet. And so I wouldn't call myself a guru. I'm not a master. Sure, I'm on the path to having some expert skill, but I even shy away from that. I'm a student first, and I've learned a few things that allows me to feel qualified as a teacher.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, I really listening there, Brian, we do take our breath for granted. For sure, and it is really important. Was there a certain time in your life that brought you to it and made you aware and to go down that path?
A big time. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I went through a period of my life. I was that very classic, burnt out, overwhelmed, overworked entrepreneur that was burning the candle at both ends, building multiple businesses, trying to raise a family. I had just had my first biological child, and I had very little practice, very little morning routine. I was drinking a lot of coffee. I was modulating my nervous system with all sorts of things that weren't good for me. And I just realized that it was not sustainable. And there was something that was massively missing, and introduced breath work. And it was like the massive thing that my life was missing. It gave me a practice. It gave me a tool to be able to manipulate and modulate my own nervous system without needing coffee, caffeine, or stimulants. And that's the magic of breath work. It's really like a remote control to your nervous system. Most people, we have all of these fluctuations in our nervous system. Our nervous system is directly connected to our emotional system. So we have these peaks and these valleys, and we're up and we're down, and we have these different emotional states that we get in. And most people, they'll either numb it out or they'll wait for it to change and try to be patient or not so patient as they're waiting for their emotional state to change. And breathwork gives us a tool that allows us to, in 30 seconds or less, upregulate our nervous system, downregulate our nervous system, balance out our nervous system. It's the only function and it's the only thing inside of our autonomic nervous system that we have any control over. You can't sit there and control your heart rate or your blood pressure at will, your digestion, any of the thousands of different processes that are happening all at one time to keep us alive. But we can control our breath, and how we breathe gives us direct control of our heart rate, our blood pressure, our digestion, but most importantly, our emotional health and our emotional stability. And if that's not a superpower, then I really don't know what is.
Yeah, emotional stability. That is amazing. Yeah, because everything's linked. It's all a cycle. And even having that awareness is a massive help to people. So words that you use there, like control and manipulation, a lot of people, especially in this busy society, want that control and that power to feel like we know where we're going on our journey and our path, as if it all has to be planned out. That's what I love what you're saying is, if we control our breath, our function, especially in our mind and body, will just relax and respond. So it's like, when you speak, Brian, about the nervous system, I feel like a lot of people might have a disconnect. Whereas breath work, would you say it brings you connected as a whole?
It can. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the basic nuts and bolts of how it works. Is most people believe that because our breathing is automatic, that we're automatically breathing healthy. And nothing could be further from the truth. Most of us are conditioned with a massive issue in how we breathe, and it's referred to in the book, amazing book, if anybody wants to dive deeper into this. It's called The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McKeown. And he talks about how we've become a society of chronic overbreathers. Now, if you want to watch a healthy breather, simply observe a baby breathing. All right, so you can kind of imagine what that might look like. It's like when my son is 3 now, but when he was like all the way up until 18 months, I loved and still to this day, for the most part, he's a healthy breather. You watch a baby breathing, especially while they're sleeping, and what are they doing? They're taking very slow breaths in through their nose. They're pulling their breath down into their diaphragm, into their belly. You're watching their belly rise and fall. And it's a very natural process. That's a very healthy breath. Now, most people, as a result of the foods we eat, the environment we live in, a sedentary lifestyle, our stress, our anxiety levels, as a result, we're breathing this overbreath, this chronic overbreathing, 2 to 3 times more air, and we're breathing sometimes through our nose, a lot of the time through our mouth. A lot of people are snoring and they have sleep apnea, so they're breathing through their mouth. And as a result, this is essentially, if you want to talk about the nervous system, your upper chest is your fight or flight area. This is the sympathetic side of the nervous system is activated in the upper chest breath. The other side, the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, is at the rest and digest side, is activated when you breathe down into your belly. And so you can immediately affect the quality of your nervous system by shifting from these fast and shallow upper chest breaths to these slow, it's called LSD breathing, not to be confused with the psychedelic. It's low, slow, and deep. So when you want to breathe a healthy breath, here, we'll do it for the people that are going to be watching this. What I want you to do is take one hand, just put it down on your belly. Mm-hmm. And what I want you to do is start taking a nice, slow, deep breath in through your nose, very slowly, gently, and feel your belly expand a little bit on the inhale and contract a little bit on the exhale. All right. Now what we're going to do is slow it down a little bit. So on the next breath, I want you to expel your air. Then breathe in nice and slow for a count of 5 into the belly through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now another slow exhale for 5 seconds for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now already you should feel calm and relaxed just by doing that. How long did that take us? Less than 10 seconds. And so you can literally manipulate your nervous system that quickly. That breathwork technique is called resonant breathing. It's called coherent breathing. Why? Because it's the only breathing technique as measured by HeartMath Institute to match the frequencies of the brain, of the mind, and the heart. So the heart frequency and the brain frequency come into a state of rhythm, a state of resonance. So you're creating a resonant field in your sense, and then you're balancing the nervous system. So most people have a little bit of a longer inhale and a very short exhale. When you're doing that, essentially what you're doing is you're programming your entire body to be in a state of fight or flight. Think about that. So most of the issue that we're having emotionally, it's not that we're just triggered and emotional by everything. It's as a result of how we're breathing. It's causing our anxiety. It's causing our stress. You want to slow your chemistry down. You want to slow your biochemistry down. You just extend your exhale. So every inhale, get this, this blows people away because we're not taught this in school. Every inhale is a fight or flight breath. So think about it. You almost get hit by a car. What do you do? Right? You take a massive gasp in, okay? If you're relaxing, what do? It's an exhale, right? And so the issue is that we're dominantly living inside of our fight or flight side of our nervous system, and when our nervous system is off, we're extra emotional, we're extra triggerable, things bother us a lot more. And so all we have to do is extend our exhale. And the longer you extend your exhale, let's do it right now. Nice short inhale.
Okay.
Exhale as long as you can. That alone will calm you down. So you can see, we're barely scratching the surface. This is like this massive iceberg. This is just the top. But we have so much ability to take control of our life, our nervous system, our emotional health, our psychological health, just by fixing this whole bad pattern, bad habit that we have of being these extremely dysfunctional breathers. And that's just the tip.
And is this a daily practice then? That's probably a very silly question, but even just doing the 5 seconds in and out, my diaphragm, my lungs are not used to that. So I feel like I'm like short for breath. So it's like controlling it. I can feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you want to know why that is? The reason why that is because as a result of being these fast and shallow breathers, we've become very intolerant to carbon dioxide. All right, so basic chemistry. You breathe in oxygen, you breathe out carbon dioxide, right? And so when you're breathing too quickly, you're breathing out too much carbon dioxide. When you hold your breath, sooner or later you get air hungry, right? And you feel like you have to take a breath, right? That's what you were feeling when you were just doing that. That's not because you're short on oxygen. Your blood oxygen levels are 95 to 99% all the time, no matter what, unless you're in really bad health and have some alternative, health issues that you're dealing with. Yeah. But most people, they're 95 to 99% all the time. When you're breath hungry, your carbon dioxide is building up. That carbon dioxide is like an inner trigger that tells the mind, breathe more. And so when we slow down our breathing, we become more CO2 tolerant. When we become more CO2 tolerant, that CO2 gets it helps with the distribution of all the oxygen into all the tissues, all the organs, into the brain. Because when we're breathing fast and shallow, what's happening? Get this. This is mind-blowing type stuff. We're constricting when we breathe fast and shallow, it's called vasoconstriction. All the 75,000 miles of blood vessels are constricting, so it's harder for the blood flow to get through. When it's harder for the blood flow to get through, we're getting 40% less oxygen distribution into our brain. What do you think that's doing for our mental health and brain fog and all these things? And so that's because we don't have enough carbon dioxide in our blood to distribute the oxygen, the oxygen that's way more valuable of a nutrient than food and water ever could be. We need it. You don't get oxygen for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You're not going to last that long. We can do days without food and water. And so learning how to become more carbon dioxide tolerant is literally, there's a breathwork technique I could train you in 5 minutes. If you had chronic asthma, if you followed the protocol I gave you, doctors will tell you you can't beat asthma. You have to have an inhaler. You have to have steroids. I could help you beat asthma in 30 days. It's called the Buteyko method. I didn't invent it. They've cured thousands of people with chronic asthma. And all it is about CO2 tolerance training. Breath holding, really slow breathing, almost breathing in a way where you're hungry for air a little bit all the time will heal you of asthma.
Wow. And I know COPD may be a little bit different, but I'm guessing it'll still really help anyone with that condition as well.
100%. Wow. There's a book called The Breathing Cure. And it literally will give you, it's like a Bible, it's like a cookbook. No matter what it is that you're struggling with, physiologically, mentally, psychologically, there's breathwork techniques that you can do that when integrated into your life, and it's not like you have to be doing them all the time. Sooner or later, you do 5, 10, 15 minutes of these breathing practices. What are you doing? You're training your subconscious mind to breathe more healthy. So you do them and you create a regimen and you stick to it and you have a little bit of grit and willpower, excuse me, and you're training your body to become healthy breather. That's one side of breath work that I teach. It's how to become functional breathers. The other side, the transformational breath work, is just a whole other ball game. That's completely on the other side of the equation.
Oh, it's amazing. And that's what I was just going to ask you, actually, because it's like transformational breath work and everything that you do. I know that you've studied a lot, and Wim Hof, especially now he's got his program on TV, he's even more popular. What's different from what you've found with your breath work?
That's a good question. First of all, I love Wim Hof. I do his breathing techniques literally weekly. He's amazing, and he's made breath work. He's popularized it and brought it to the mainstream. I'm incredibly grateful. I studied with his younger brother for 30 days in Bali, actually. Oh. And the main technique that most of these breathwork journey facilitators teach is very similar. It's called conscious connected breathing or circular breathing. And so essentially it's very simple. It's like when we breathe, we have a very natural kind of pause at the top and a pause at the bottom when we're breathing. Conscious connected breathing, whether you're breathing in through the nose or the mouth, benefits of breathing through the mouth is you just get 2 to 3 times more oxygen than you can get in through your nose. So when we do this, that's basically conscious connected breathing. It's a form of controlled hyperventilation. What that is doing is a lot of things. But it's the main, and I can go into it in a minute, but it's the main technique behind rebirthing breathing, holotropic breathing, Wim Hof breathing, transformational breathwork breathing, Soma breathing, all these things. It's all conscious connected breathing. And they're all powerful in their own right. And I've breathed them all, and they all have their place. Transformational breathwork, for me, it just takes it to a completely different level, because essentially, instead of putting people in a room, teaching them how to do a technique, playing some music, and letting the breath come in and take them where they need to go on the journey, which is to altered states of consciousness and all sorts of different, potentially different places, depending on the individual and what comes up for them in that experience, because it ranges. Transformational breathwork, the way I teach it, is when people get into that domain of altered state, essentially where they've gone is into a place that they wouldn't otherwise have access to, which is into the subconscious mind domain. What's happening when you do this conscious connected circular breathing is after 10 or 15 minutes, the conscious mind slows down, the prefrontal cortex slows down. That's where the monkey mind likes to hang out and cause so much disruption in our lives. The monkey mind doesn't get so much fuel for it temporarily, and so when the monkey mind and the conscious mind slow down, the subconscious door opens, and that gives us access to what we're holding on from our childhood, limiting beliefs, old patterns of self-sabotage, what we might be carrying around from the first 7 years of our life, and childhood trauma, generational trauma, cellular memory, all these places. When we open up that door, it can be a scary place, but it can be a place of great healing. And so what I bring into the mix is, instead of allowing the music to just do its thing, I am consciously coaching people to go into those dark places in their psyche, to bring them to the surface. So I become a bit like a train conductor, or like a Tony Robbins kind of thing, where I'm actively coaching people to go into their shadows, the different things that they're struggling with. I can kind of steer their ship, and with great power comes great responsibility. You can completely, if you don't know what you're doing in this space, there's a potential that you can take someone to somewhere and use the wrong language, and it can go sideways relatively quickly. Unfortunately, I've never seen anything like that happen in my own personal work, but I'm essentially taking people to places that their psyche might not bring them to on their own organically. So I can bring them to childhood stuff. I can bring them to old things that happened in their past, old stories, old belief systems, old constructs, old illusions, things that aren't serving them, and I can consciously reframe them. Right, so you might share a limiting belief, right? And I could share with you some kind of antidote to help you to let go of that belief. But what's going to happen? Your conscious mind is filtering everything I'm sharing, right? Who is this guy? I'm not sure. I've heard it all before. I'm probably, yeah, that's great information. How can I bring it into my life? Your analytical filter is still going to be very active. When you're in a breath state, when you're in an altered state of consciousness, that filter is down. So what I share, my reframes of your old stories, go straight into the subconscious mind, and they can get sponged in, because what's happening is you're in a different brainwave state when you're in a breathwork state. You're not in very active mind beta brainwave state. You're in a very slow, rhythmic theta brainwave state. If you're anyone that's out there that's familiar with theta, they'll know theta is the active brainwave state of hypnosis. And so hypnosis has gotten a really funny rap. People who think hypnosis, they imagine, up on a stage, making people think that they're animals and bark like a dog. But hypnotherapy is just suggestion. It's just getting people into a relaxed state and making a suggestion that can stick into their subconscious. And we're actually in theta brainwave state every single day. We're in a state of hypnosis 2 times a day. Do you know what? Can you imagine what those 2 times of day might be?
Morning and night, I'm going to say.
Exactly. Right when you're waking up in the morning, your conscious mind is very slow. You're in theta brainwave state. Right when you're going to sleep, you're also in theta brainwave state. So that's why if you ever purchase like a hypnotherapy online like audio course, they'll tell you to listen at either of those 2 times, preferably in the night, because then you can go to sleep and it'll just go straight into your subconscious, right? So we're in theta brainwave state for the first 7 years of our life. So what does that mean? We're in a state of hypnosis for the first 7 years of our life. All of the thoughts or all of the actions that our parents take, our authorities in our life, all the things that trigger them, how they show up in the world, their mental health, how they relate with each other, how they love each other or don't love each other, all that stuff that's going on in our environment that we have no control over is like we're being hypnotized with it, and it's going straight into our subconscious, and it controls how we live. Dr. Bruce Lipton says we're printouts. We're literally walking printouts of our subconscious mind. All of our actions and everything that we do is controlled by the 95% of the parts of us that we're not even aware of. So when people are in this breath work state, there's this altered state of consciousness, it's almost like they're in a state of hypnosis. So I can come in and I can reframe some old story, and instead of you blocking it out, it'll just go straight into your subconscious. And that's why people can come out of breathwork experience and then they can say things like, man, I've done 5 years of psychotherapy, but I feel like that 1 hour was more valuable than 5 years of therapy. Yeah. Or they might come out with a new idea or a new epiphany or a new understanding of their emotional system or a new reframe of some story that happened with them for them in the past. Here's a most extreme example that I like to tell. I had a student. This was in January of this year, not all that long ago. I got into a call with a student. She wanted to sign up for my certification program. And she told me, she's a 67-year-old woman, very sweet little lady. And she said, Brian, I want to tell you about my experience with your digital breathwork journey. Something that I wasn't even there. I sent her the file because she wanted to get certified. So it's like a preliminary work that I'm actually going to gift to your students at the end of this. And she said, when I was young, I was kidnapped by knife point and held hostage and made to do terrible things. So, i.e. tortured in some way. And she said, I carried that trauma my whole life. I barricaded my door closed when I slept. And she said, none of the therapy or anything I ever tried worked. And she said, and then I did your breathwork journey. And in 1 hour, I felt myself transcending the entire experience. And I was able to actually hold my kidnapper in a light of love and forgiveness. And I feel now like after all these years, I can finally move on with my life. And she said that I've been doing this, my same job for 40 years. I realize I don't like it. I want to get certified and become a breath coach. And I just wanted to thank you. And I'm just like, that did it for me. It's like, okay, if she can do that, just think about how many people are struggling with trauma, PTSD, chronic anxiety, all sorts of depression. Everything is possible with this work. And you know how many words have to be spoken in the process? Not a single one. And we can process through years of trauma. This is why I'm so passionate. This is why you can see it oozing through me. It's why I've committed my life to this work, because it works. And if there's a reason why breathwork is the #1 trending modality in a $4 trillion health and wellness industry since 2019.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. I have goosebumps. Like, it's so powerful, and that's the beauty of it. And so with you, Brian, do you work virtually, one-on-one, group sessions? I know you're based in Bali, because people will be really interested, like, need to see Brian.
All the above. I have a school, so I certify students from all over the world online. I'm doing breath work. I do group sessions once a month. I guided 316 people signed up for my last one on Zoom. It's full power, even in a Zoom kind of environment. I do
Yeah.
those once a month. I do privates online sometimes, and I do live groups and one-on-one sessions for people that are here in Bali. But what I'm really going for is beyond all that. I'm trying to disrupt the entire industry with what I'm doing right now, and I'm upsetting some people, which means I'm doing something right. I'm trying to create a scenario where people can do breath work anywhere from a journey, anywhere from the comfort of their own home that doesn't require me to be there or them to be in a Zoom room.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing. This journey that Sherry did, a lot of breathwork teachers, they'd say, "Oh my gosh, it's so irresponsible. So many things can come up. You're not there. You're not even on the Zoom. What happens if an old trauma gets triggered?" All those are very fair concerns, unless you give people, make sure that to help them understand how much control they have over their experience in the moment.
Yeah.
That's what makes my teaching safe, is I spend extra time on the front end saying, look, if something starts to feel like it's coming up and you don't feel like you're ready to process it today, you're the captain of the ship. Back yourself out. And I explain how to do that safely. And fortunately, I've been blessed. I've taught upwards of 8,000 students at this point, maybe even more, after the last few journeys. And I've never had a single student get stuck in an old trauma and go sideways and have any kind of negative reaction to it. There's been studies that have been done. There's one in particular, 11,000 psychiatric patients, people that are most susceptible for psychotic breakdown. And that's actually the keynote study that people point to show that breathwork of this caliber is safe. So when I've done by the time I pass and I take my last and final breath, on my gravestone it will be written that Brian Kelly was the one to deliver breathwork in a way that it could be digitally experienced from anywhere in the world without having to go into a room or be guided by a facilitator. That's my mission.
Wow. And that is amazing. And I'm here to cheer you on all the way. It's brilliant. Great mission. And Brian, you've said a few things there about stress, anxiety, depression, overwhelm, and so on. People coming to do this work, like you've said, it can be scary. And so am I right in thinking that obviously we have to face our fear, but would you say our subconscious has to be willing and we have to be open to actually to get the benefit?
Subconscious mind is always willing. Let's start there. It's the conscious mind that presents the unwillingness. The subconscious mind, the subconscious always has it figured out. It's chill. It's got access to all the information in the universe. You can literally pull it up at any time. There's no fear ever in the subconscious. It's the conscious mind that causes us all the issue. Going straight into a breathwork journey, the kind that I teach, might not be for everyone. If there's a massive fear trigger that comes up, then you might want to ease your way into it a little bit. I'm one of those kind of coaches and teachers that help my students to understand that no matter how scary it might feel, it's only a construct of the mind. And if you are willing to be a little bit uncomfortable, all change, all growth, all transformation, does it happen in our comfort zone or when we're uncomfortable? It happens when we're uncomfortable. So it's always a question. Do you want to continue living with your chronic anxiety, your stress, or your depression? SAD. Have you ever heard the acronym SAD? Stress, anxiety, depression. It's an actual acronym for a real thing that so many people struggle with. Before COVID in the United States, 11% of people were diagnosed with one or the other. Post-COVID, 41%. Nearly half. That's people that have been diagnosed. Think about all the people that haven't been diagnosed. More than half. We want to do something about. We're not struggling with the circumstances of our life. Those aren't the struggles. Those are just triggers that are triggering old things from our past. The stuff that we're really struggling with is old shit from our past that hasn't been integrated, old emotional processes that haven't come to any completion. We've been trained and manipulated and coerced and brainwashed into believing that we shouldn't express our emotions, especially as men. It's bullshit. We're emotional beings. We're emotional creatures. Most people are afraid to actually really express and feel their emotions when they've come up. We shut them down. We don't want people to see us cry. We can't go outside and scream at the top of our lungs when we're mad. We're not allowed to be angry or rageful. I went most of my life, up until 2 years ago, I thought, you know what? I just am not an angry person. I never feel anger. It's weird. It's just not a part of me. Bullshit. I was suppressing my anger my whole life. Once I gave myself an outlet to actually bring it to the surface, it's like a wheel. It's like anytime we feel an emotional thing, if we suppress it down, what happens to it? Locks in the body, grabs on, and messes with our life for years to come. So breathwork just helps us to complete the cycles. There is one amazing study. I talk about it a lot because it's super powerful and it helps to paint a very vivid picture. Yep. So they did this study at a university in the United States just a few years ago. It's not even all that old. And what they did was they took a lab mouse, they gave it a little electric shock, just enough to trigger cortisol kind of trauma stress response. Also not for all the animal rights advocates out there, I agree, it's, but for a really good cause, because what came out of it, what they wanted to figure out was if they could get the offspring of the rat, the mouse, to have a trauma response, cortisol response, stress response, just by the smell but not the shock, right? And what they found blew them away. 14 generations of offspring later were still having the stress, trauma, cortisol release without the shock. Imagine that.
Yeah.
We're biological. They're the same biological species. We all have that in us. So translate that into the average human. I used to think, because I was a product of 2 hippies and showered with so much love for the first 7 years of my life ad nauseum by every single person in my family, I thought it was child abuse because I had that much love like blasted at me for the first 7 developmental years of my life. I'm so freaking grateful for it today. I thought I was trauma-free as a result. Bullshit. What about all the war, all the poverty, all the hunger, all the famine, all the racism, all the sexism, all the discrimination, think about all that are 14, doesn't matter where you live or your culture, 14 generations of history, we've been through a lot. Where are we carrying it? In our cellular memory. What's it affecting? Our nervous system. So we have a choice. Everybody watching this, you have a choice. You're carrying this around. It might sound new to you. You're not stressing about the circumstances. These are just triggers. They're triggering all stuff from your past, from your childhood, generational. We have a choice. We can continue to allow this stuff to come into our lives to affect how we think, how we act, how we feel, how we emote, how we experience life, or boom, we can cut the cord from this stuff and we can start living in the here and the now and not pass this on to our children for another 14 generations. How do you do that? A lot of work. Breathwork being the fast track that can get you there.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. 14 generations. That is a lot, and that is a long time. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I can see that that's manifested, as I would say, in our nervous system, which has so many symptoms. And that's the thing, isn't it? We tend to the symptoms rather than the root cause. So you're gently uprooting to actually move forward, to break through.
That's it. Yeah, what are we doing when people come to their health practitioner and they have anxiety or they have depression or they have chronic stress? What are we doing? We're pumping them full of pharmaceutical drugs. What is that treating? Is it treating the symptom or is it treating the cause? It's obviously treating the symptom, and then those pharmaceutical drugs have their own side effects that then require their own pills to knock out those. We're living in a society of insanity. The good news is that we're waking up incredibly fast. People are starting to realize that health is a holistic thing. We have a mind-body-spirit connection. This mind-body-spirit connection allows us to be bottom-up healers as opposed to top-down healers, which is what somatic healing really is. You can sit inside. There's nothing wrong with psychotherapy, but I just know many people that have been in therapy for years and they just can't break through the stuff that they're carrying around. Why? Right. Because it's a top-down approach. Yeah. When you breathe, essentially the journey that you're taking, you go in altered states of consciousness, but really it's about going on a journey from here, being so active all the time, down into the body. And this is where we're carrying everything. We're carrying our complexes, we're carrying all traumas, all of our bioenergetic blocks, all the things that are causing us so much stress and pain and remorse and regret and fear and all these things. We're carrying it around in our body. When we breathe like this, essentially, all right, here's a good analogy, right? So imagine this is a plastic water bottle and it's got soda bottle. It's got all the little bubbles along the side, right? All those little bubbles are like all the traumas that are stuck in our body. They're trapped inside of our fascia and our bones and our muscles and our joints. It registers as tension. If unaddressed, it manifests as anxiety, all these other things. What do you do to get those bottles or those bubbles to come? You don't talk to them. You don't coach them. Boom, they come to the surface and they fizzle up and they release without any kind of resistance whatsoever. Your body is the bottle.
Yeah.
Breathwork is the tap. And it brings all the stuff up through the body. You'll feel it as different physical sensations in the body. It could feel numbing, it could feel tingling, it could feel incredibly pleasant, it can feel incredibly unpleasant. All of the sensations that come up in breathwork as a result of so much energy exchange happening inside the body, it's all trauma and old complexes that are coming to the surface to be released. This is why you can come out of a 1-hour session and have feedback like Sherry, or just feel like things just got easier. Like an 800-pound gorilla just jumped off your back and you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's like, I've seen it so many times of people saying that was the most transformational experience I've ever had in my entire. I had one woman, she sent me a message recently, and this isn't even, by the way, this isn't ego. I don't care if you come to me for transformational breath work, or you go to somebody else, one of my students, for transformational breath work, or you go do breath work with Wim Hof and do his thing, or you go with Stan Grof and holotropic, or you go to rebirthing. The point is that breath work is out there. And so that gives us the ability to move so much energy in such a short period of time. I'm just an ambassador of the modality. If you get inspired by what I say, you want to come experience it with me, that's great. But what's more important to me is that it becomes mainstream and that people realize that it's there and that it works. And that this is what the woman told me. She said, I just counted, and since my childhood, I've done 3,315 hours of retreats, meditation, breath work, and yoga, and that was by far the most transformational 1 hour of my entire life. You just can't make this kind of stuff up. That's what I'm going to gift to your students, your followers, the people that are going to listen to that same experience that all these people did at the end of this.
Wow, that is so exciting and so generous. I'm really excited to hear what people say when they've experienced that. So thank you so much. What you said there, Brian, was somatic healing. For people who are thinking somatic healing, like, please just explain a little bit what you mean there.
Soma, the body. So somatic healing is like using the body as the conduit for healing. So many people are trying to use the conscious mind as a way. It's like being aware of your issues is very powerful, but it doesn't fix it. That doesn't actually address it a lot of the time. And so, but so many people, they're reading books, and I'm an avid researcher. I'm an avid studier. I love to read books. I love to invest in and sharpen my saw and learn new things. But ultimately, what really needs the release is all in the body. And so it's like somatic healing is bottom-up healing. It's basically handing over the keys to the car, to the body, letting the body is so hyper intelligent. It's so wise, it's so intelligent, it knows exactly what it needs to do. See, here's the thing. We all have a built-in healing mechanism that lives inside of us. It's not as surprising. It's like you could cut your arm and you can film it on fast frame and you can literally watch it heal in a matter of days. You break your bone, you might have to go to the doctor, you might need a little bit of adjustment, it's going to heal itself. You get sick, you might have to take some vitamins, some nutrients, some supplements. It's going to heal itself. What most people don't realize is that we have a psychological healer that lives inside of us as well. But do you know what the difference is between our psychological healer and our physiological healer? One happens naturally. The other one you got to activate.
Uh-huh.
The physiological healer happens on its own. You don't have to think about it. It just does it. The psychological healer has to be activated. You can't just, you need to do something to activate it. Breath work activates the psychological healer. It will come in, it will heal the things that are causing us pain and anxiety and depression, and close the loops of old unprocessed emotional cycles and stuff that we're carrying around from our past. It's a superpower. And the fact that we're not teaching this to children in school, I got a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old. I do breath work with both of them. My 3-year-old doesn't call it breath work though, it's breath works. It's like plural. There's a lot of it. So, but I do it with both. People say, how young can you start teaching kids? You get kids to have a relationship with their breath when they're young.
Yeah.
What's that going to do on their emotional development as they get older? Miracles. We will literally change the world in one generation.
Yeah.
We just got to get our head out of our asses when it comes to what we're teaching kids in schools. We got to rewrite that script. This is the reason why I got into this work. Is that once I did a first journey, I was looking around and being like, why are we teaching this in schools, and why isn't this being prescribed by doctors? Doctors aren't prescribing breath work, and I can only ask that question for so long before I realize I need to take a good hard look in the mirror and figure out who's actually responsible if that's the world that I want to live in. Nobody else, just me, and anybody that wants to come along with me. And that's what I'm doing. I'm recruiting people to come along with me on that journey.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And the great thing is, it's free. Breath is all around us, and it's just the willingness.
That's it.
You've said so many things. I call them golden nuggets. Everything's just golden, and I'm picking things out. Hypnotherapy and breath work into subconscious, so sleep. And I know our breath changes a lot when we sleep. Is it 10 breaths a minute or something like that? And people aren't aware. So it'd be really interesting to see about advice or benefits of sleep with breath work.
It's a really good question. The reason why it's a good question is because you could become an incredibly functional breather while you're awake. And if you're breathing through your mouth and snoring, or if you have sleep apnea and you're drooling, if you're getting up a lot in the night to go to the bathroom, if you wake up with low energy, most likely you're mouth breathing at night. And you're canceling out all the good breathing that you're doing during the day. The good news is there's a cure for it, and you can cure it in 24 hours or less. I had a student at one of my retreats, and he said, I've been a lifelong snorer. It sounds like I'm sawing logs in the middle of the night. It's affected my relationship. I have low energy when I wake up. My wife and I don't even sleep in the same bedroom anymore. What can I do? It's simple. Here, take this 3M medical tape. Take a piece. Tape your mouth shut from the top to the bottom. It's very light tape, so it's not going to rip your skin or your beard off if you're a man when you take it off, put it on. That is going to hold your jaw shut at night, and it's going to force you to sleep and breathe through your nose. When you're breathing through your nose, you're activating your rest and digest side of this. A lot of times people have trouble sleeping because they're breathing in through their mouth. They're activating fight or flight while they're sleeping. So he came back the next day like, what on earth? Why didn't anybody tell me about this? He stopped snoring in one night by one single piece of mouth tape. It's one of the ultimate biohacks. It's called 3M tape. You can get it from any pharmacy for less than $1, and it'll literally reinvent your sleeping in one night. And do it for 30 days, and you're training your subconscious mind to breathe through your nose without the tape, and sooner or later you can take the tape out.
That's so interesting, because the only things that I've seen is the nose pieces, as if, like you're swimming and you want to block off your nose, as if you're opening up the nose, where actually, you've just said it there, it's your mouth that's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm a natural mouth breather when I sleep. The reality is I got to start mouth taping again, because since I've been sick, I've been so congested, and so naturally as a result I've been breathing in through my mouth. There's no judgment, it's easy, but the problem is that if you're breathing in through your mouth for a number of years, your long-term, it's been directly related to what's the number one cause of death in the United States, I think worldwide. Do you know what it is? Number one cause of early death: cardiovascular health issues, heart health.
Right.
Cardiovascular health kills it was the number one cause of death.
Right.
What leads to heart issues? Lack of blood flow being able to work its way through all the 70,000 miles of blood vessels that we have in our body. What causes a lack of blood flow? Breathing out too much carbon dioxide. What does that do? It constricts the blood vessels. The repercussions of that going to be in the long term? Massive cardiovascular health problems. People laugh at snoring. What we should be doing when people are snoring is crying and telling them, please fix this right now, because most likely if you don't, it's going to lead to some downstream health issues down the track. And it's also going to be robbing you from your energy in the morning. And. We could go into a lot of the science stuff, but we can leave it there for now.
Yeah, no, that's great, and that is a great message. And I myself know some snorers, so I'm going to tell them to get that tape for sure. Thank you. Brian, I would love to know about hot and cold aromatherapy. Don't know if that's anything to do. I haven't looked into it because I wanted to ask you your side, but I wasn't sure if it was hot and cold therapy, but then the aroma was in there, so I was like, I'm just going to throw it out.
I work with all of it. Not necessarily all together at the same time. I work with essential oils when I guide journeys, and so I have a few go-to ones. Breathe is one of my favorite ones. The other one, peppermint, I use a lot.
Yeah.
Let's see, I got it right here. The other one, frankincense, I use a lot, and so I have a whole emotional release set of essential oils that I use, as you can actually see that there. It is a little bit beat up now.
Use.
doTERRA emotional therapy. So that just helps for the moving of energies and for the activation of different kind of chakras and different kind of stuff that's going on inside the body. So I use that in conjunction with the breathwork sessions that I do. Hot and cold therapy is a little bit of a different ballgame. Cold therapy is great. Like, I'm in the process of looking to build an ice bath for myself here at my house now. At the Astana where I work, my business partner has a biohacking and meditation retreat center. He's got cryotherapy, hot and cold plunges, saunas, steam rooms, the whole nine. Cold therapy especially is really great for anxiety. It's really great for depression. It's great for mental health. It's great for circulation. It's great for recovery. It's great for getting rid of brown fat for people that want to lose weight. It's great for shocking the nervous system, a nice healthy shock to the nervous system. I do underwater ice bath holds. That's intense and extreme, but you walk out of that and you feel like, a new human after 60 seconds under there, and the world gets really quiet really fast. Your heart rate slows down really slow. It can be a little bit scary at first, but very powerful daily practice. And heat as well. I mean, the biggest things for inside my retreats that I train, there's a lot of health benefits and scientifically proven health benefits to both, but like for me, it's a lot about, I talk mostly about mental health side, because ultimately if you can find a place of calm center in your mind when you're in 5-degree water and you're in that shock of, holy shit, I'm not meant to be here right now, and you can use your breath to slow down your mind and just find that edge of being comfortable in a very uncomfortable environment, then that equips you with being able to navigate a lot of shit that's going to come up in your life that might otherwise throw you off your center. And so finding those extreme environments and finding your edge inside of that extreme environment. So usually what I'll do inside of hot or cold is I'll say, look, when you feel like you can't do it anymore and you're ready to get out, count to 60 in your head and stay in for one more minute. And then that 60 is the edge. And the reality is, once they might feel like they can't go on anymore, but everybody could always do one more minute. The reality is, we convince ourselves that we're so much more limited in every area of life than we actually are, and we just think we've created stories that we can't push beyond certain thresholds and certain glass ceilings. And the reality is, they're just stories. These thoughts aren't facts. Limiting beliefs aren't facts. They're just illusions that we've picked up along the way and that we've told ourselves. And we can coach ourselves into believing that we are actually way more powerful, way more capable of handling adversity than what our mind leads us to believe. And how do we do that? By finding our edge and being with it without letting it freak us out.
I love that. And with the cold therapy in particular, some people worry that it might be dangerous because of the heart. So if you have certain health conditions, is it a case of speaking to your doctor before, or what do you say?
Yeah, you just talk to your,
Check it
if you have
out.
any contraindications and I mean, you can talk to your doctor. I don't really trust doctors, so I would usually just go to Google and then see what peer-reviewed studies, or what the majority of articles are saying, and usually you
Yeah.
can get a pretty good idea of whether or not it's safe. And the thing is like if you have high heart rate or high blood pressure, cold is perfect for that because it's going to slow it down. If you have a low blood pressure, low heart rate, that's when you might want to look online or consult a physician first, but all in controlled small doses. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you're concerned and there's a fear there, then that's the thing about fears. What happens if you are fearing that you're going to get cancer your whole life? Do your chances of getting cancer, are they reduced or increased? Obviously increased,
Yeah.
because things are so psychosomatic. And so if you go in with a psychosomatic fear and concern, then it might materialize. So you either need to reframe the psychosomatic concern, or you need to do the research to make sure that that you're safe.
Amazing. Thank you so much. With everything that you've experienced and studied and learned to where you are now, if you were to go back to your 16-year-old self and give advice, what would you say?
Start your growth journey yesterday. Read the books, do personal development, find your path, discover who you are spiritually, get outside of your comfort zone, explore the world, follow your highest excitement, never give up. I mean, it's a combination of all of those things. Get out and fly. Love yourself no matter what. Don't beat yourself up. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. It'd be some kind of an amalgamation of all those things.
Yeah, I love that. There's no such thing as fear, just feedback. Was that
There's failure. There's no
failure?
such thing as
Failure.
failure, only feedback. It's like, how many times did Thomas Edison make attempts to make the light bulb before the light bulb worked?
Yeah.
30,000, right? How many of us give ourselves 5 times before we give up, let alone 30,000? Now, if he would have stopped, sure, we would have created light sooner or later, but we wouldn't have had the light bulb at that time. There was no failure in his book. It was a ton of feedback.
Yes, and learning, and what can I do to just keep on going. Brilliant. And lastly, before we get into your free gift and the breath work, if you were to sum up 3 top tools, tips, or techniques to be, what came to me now is to be free, but it's like to have a better breath, to live healthier and happier each day, what would you say to people?
Slow down your breath, find a modality and dive deep into it.
Yep.
And create experiences in your life that require you to be outside of your comfort zone. I'll give you a practical example for this. So I've just gotten so used to encouraging myself into discomfort that it's just become a way of life. But like, here's an example. Before this call, I was standing on a bed of nails for 2.5 minutes. And this is all sorts of crazy benefits that I just don't even understand completely because I'm kind of new to this, but I stood on these things for 2.5 minutes. It was miserable after 30 seconds. But you stand on this for 12 minutes and they say you're going to start unlocking all sorts of different stuff in your psyche and in your subconscious. This is controlled discomfort for the purpose of very fast shifting and changing and transformation. All growth, all change happens outside of our comfort zone. So it would probably be those 3.
Nice. I love it. And especially with the feet, on doTERRA, if you put your essential oils in certain parts, as I'm sure you're aware, it connects to your body. And so that's really interesting, and reflexology and things like that. So your feet hold so much. It's amazing. 2.5 minutes. Well done. Oh my God.
Thank you. It wasn't easy.
So Brian, I would love to know, for you to share what your free gift is, and then you were very kindly going to do 3-4 minute breath work. And so I'll say thank you now, and then afterwards I'll just end it so we're all chill.
Okay, let's do the breath work. Let's do the freebie first. So I'm going to send you a link that's going to be a 60-minute guided journey. It's actually the first, it's not just a breathwork journey, it's breathwork mixed with hypnotherapy, mixed with subconscious subliminal messaging, mixed with binaural beats frequencies. I'm kind of revolutionizing the amalgamation of all these technologies into one, and I've just recently created it, so I'll give all of your students access. And that's going to be a deep dive transformational breathwork journey. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. You just need to have headphones because of stereo sound. So there's a lot of like multi-dimensional sound stuff that's happening in there.
Okay.
And it's my signature experience that I usually charge $350 for, but we'll hook it up for the good of the cause for your students and your listeners today. That's that. I'm gonna make it active for. I'll make it active for 2 weeks, and then the link is gonna disappear because I don't want people
Yeah.
sitting on it for too long or trying to download it or abuse it.
Yeah.
So that's that. So the
Okay.
breathwork practice that we're gonna do together is one of my favorites. It's a activating technique. It's designed to shock the nervous system temporarily and put us into a controlled state of fight or flight. In order to, at the end, we're going to shift to rest and digest very quickly, and we're going to feel it in our body, and it's going to be nice, and it's going to be relaxing. This is a great technique for if you're feeling overly anxious, too much mind activity, tired in the morning, and you would normally drink a double cappuccino. You can do this instead. And it's just a great shock to the nervous system to get you back into your body and mind still. All right, it's called the 10-20-30 method. Okay, so we're going to be breathing in through our mouth, big, full, deep breaths. Not that much to it. We're going to take 10 breaths. We're going to count to 10. On the exhale, we're going to, on the last final breath on the 10, blow it all out. Close our eyes, count to 10 seconds, come back in. We're going to do 20 breaths. On the exhale of the 20th breath, we're going to hold our breath for 20 seconds. On the final round, you can imagine we're going to come and do the final 30 breaths, and then we're going to exhale all of our air. We're going to count to 30, and then for the people that want to extend the breath hold on the final breath, you can. What happens in this is we're expelling so much carbon dioxide that you might normally be able to hold your breath for 45 seconds, but at the end of all this, because of all the carbon dioxide is going to be flushed from the system, you can hold your breath 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, no problem. So that's usually something that grabs people's attention very quickly. Is you just showed them how much we manipulate their physiology in such a short period of time, and that whatever struggle that you might be up against, in your mind or emotionally before, this should shock it out to where you realize it's actually not that big of a problem very quickly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow. That sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so you're going to do it, right? And then everybody else is going to do it from home? Okay, so I'm going to count you in, and I'm going to do the first few breaths with you, and then I'm going to guide you, and I'm going to count you through the rest. All right, I'm going to grab my timer. Okay, so go ahead and get yourself ready. You want to be sitting. You can be just sitting and kind of propped back a little bit. You never want to be standing or driving or operating any heavy machinery while you're doing this technique. So we are good to go, and I'm going to count you in. And 3, 2, 1, and breathe. 7, keep going. 8, 9, big in, big out. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Coming back for round 2. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Don't worry if you get a little bit lightheaded. It's okay. 15, 16, 17, 18. Big in, big out. Hold your breath. Close your eyes. Relax. Keep holding. 10 seconds, 10 more seconds. You're going to come back into our final round. Notice what you feel, notice sensations in your body. You're safe, everything is okay. Body activated, coming back in for round 3. Final round in 3, 2, 1. Begin again. You got it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 10 more. You got it. Keep going. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, last 3, 28, 29, big in, big out. Hold your breath, close your eyes, relax. Notice what you feel. Carbon dioxide out, O2 up, DMT released, serotonin, all the good feels, all the happy chemicals being released from the brain, a lot of sensations, a lot of stillness. 20 seconds. Notice the quality of your mind, the stillness of your thoughts. 5 seconds. Coming out in 3, 2, 1. Take a nice big breath in. Relax it out. And you're back.
Brian,
Now
that was awesome.
that was less than 5 minutes. That was probably 4 minutes. Now imagine an hour of that and kicking it up like 10 notches. And that's transformational breath work.
I'm so excited for everybody to experience that and to get the feedback. So on behalf of everybody, thank you so much.